Right, I see more and more people are joining. However, I believe because the material that we've prepped is so intense, we don't wait any longer. And without further ado, I just want to ask Anna to take the floor and welcome you all on behalf of Women in Tech Uzbekistan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kristina, for such a warm introduction. And I want to make also introduction from my side. I am Anna Ambrazevich, Women in Tech Uzbekistan Director. And I'm super happy to see Kristina here because from my point of view, and I think not only from my point of view, she's one of the best experts in multicultural communication, in cooperation and other things. And she's one of my best person in this, multicultural world. That's why I'm super happy to see her here today. And what I want to ask you, yes, to be open to ask questions, because Kristina, it's a super chance for you to communicate with her because usually she's very busy and she has so many business trips and she's everywhere, in these trips. That's why, today we have a chance to speak with her and to collaborate with her. That's why, Kristina, thank you so much for your time, for your passion, first of all, in your topic. And I think, stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. I'm super happy that we got this bunch of amazing people together today. And many thanks for welcoming me and welcoming all of the audience who are so interested in the global development, which really makes my heart feel so much warmer. So without further ado, let's begin. I'd like to welcome you all. And just want to say that together with me today, apart from Women in Tech, there is another colleague of mine from my organization. This is Artemi. He's going to be in charge of all the technical issues and sometimes will help me with questions if there are any. So feel free to approach him if anything goes not in the way you expected. And before we begin and we formally start, I'd like to just kindly ask you to give me a shout out if everything works well in terms of the presentation. Do you see the screen? Does it look nice? Do you like the presentation colors? I hope you do. So everything looks great. Super.
We can see, and we can see Women in Tech logo. That's why it's perfect.
Yeah, amazing. Well, we tried hard. Artemi and myself, we tried hard to make this a matching style. Great, super. Without further ado, let me just briefly say a few words about housekeeping rules. What do I suggest? I just want to make sure that we know where we all come from, where we all connect from. This would be a fantastic chance for me to see the geography of the presence for today. So where do you tune in from? Can you use the Zoom chat, please, to explain to me the city or the city and the country where you connect from? That would be a great chance for us to do a little networking as well, by the way. So I can see Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Armenia, Uzbekistan, Serbia, Russia, France, Uzbekistan, Peru. My God, we've got so many continents covered today. Amazing. So many more people from Uzbekistan. We've got quite a geography, I should say. That's very impressive. Belarus. Alina is in both places at the same time. She's both in Uzbekistan and in Russia. I don't know how you managed to do that. Are you sitting somewhere in the border between the two, in the border customs control office, or somehow? I don't know, but that's impressive. All right. And Uzbekistan we have. All right. If you're still writing, please keep doing so. And I will proceed to some of the basic rules for today that I hope will make our conversation easier and more efficient. First and foremost, I welcome everyone to control their microphones. So if you're not answering my questions or if I'm not welcoming a conversation, you can keep the microphones off. That would be fantastic. And of course, it's really good to keep the cameras on. So it's really helpful for me to see your faces. So if there is any chance, even if you're traveling somewhere, it's great to see your faces. Also, as for the first point about the sounds, it's a good idea to switch off your notifications for 90 minutes or so. We're going to be together. So as nothing disturbs you, maybe it's a good idea to switch off the pop-up messages and all of the notifications that can be disturbing. All right, moving on. I totally don't mind if you want to make screenshots during today's presentation, because there will be a lot of hopefully useful materials, schemes, collections, life hacks, tips, real life templates, etc. But after the event, we'll be happy to share the presentation with you. So you really don't need to worry about keeping the screenshots all the time and recording all of this. The recording will be available on YouTube together with the presentation. So really no need to worry about that. Feel free to make sure that, yeah, just everything is fine, relax and enjoy the conversation. Here on top of that, I would suggest that we please stick to English. I can see a lot of people come from same language-based countries, and there is always a temptation to speak local languages in the chat, but it's a good opportunity for us to embrace the global nature of the communication. So let's stick to English today. And if you have your name not written in English, that's also a great chance for you to change this in Zoom right now to make sure every name is written in Latin alphabet, because that's the common language for us today. You can leave your questions in the chat at all the time during the presentation, so it's going to be totally fine. Artemi will help me to cover them, to collect them. I'll try to maybe answer some of them on the go if that's all right. But it's also possible that I will take some of them in the end of the session if we have enough time. And we will have a lot of interactions today, so I welcome you to stay focused and in touch. The more active you are with me, I'm sure the more value you're gonna get from this workshop, right? Good. Just a quick reminder about why we are here today. Maybe somebody just clicked on the button because it sounds like an interesting event, but we didn't go much into detail. So I'd like to make a quick reminder of the things that we're going to cover. Today, we are covering the strategies, the life hacks, and some of the basic suggestions on where we start when we want to work in a foreign company or a foreign market. And I really just want to focus on the fact that we are covering the markets and the companies, because these are the things that are, you know, sometimes a little bit different. Sometimes you may be working for a foreign market, but stay in a local company. So we'll discuss those little differences a little later. So to begin with, what I suggest that we do is I want you to please take your telephones, which are hopefully muted, and use this opportunity to scan the QR code or follow the link that Artemi, I'm sure, has already shared over here in the Zoom chat. Yes, he has. Fantastic. Thank you so very much. You're such a help, Artemi. Both lead to the same place, which will be a short poll, and I want you to take it for me to quickly understand what's your background and where you come from, what's the current stage where you are right now. So I kindly welcome you to scan the QR code and or follow the link, up to you. Both ways look and work well. So what do we have here is a short poll for you to take. And the first question is, where do you currently work? And the range of answers is pretty broad for you. So you can either work in a local company in your own country, work for an international company in your country. Maybe you're a student or an intern, or maybe you follow another category, and you're welcome to share this in the chat if that's all right with you, because the poll is anonymous, but the chat is not anonymous. Some people find it a little confusing to reveal their name. Okay. All right. I'll give you just a little second to fill in. I see 17 people are already in. All right. If you have any difficulties to join the poll, please do not hesitate to write out in the chat, because I see we still have quite several people who haven't joined the link to vote, and I'll have several questions to ask. We are more than 30 people here, and I still feel like not everyone is in the polling. All right, we still keep getting more and more people, which is fantastic. All right. Artemi, I've sent a little message to you in a personal chat, so might want to have a look at this. And I would like to share the results. I don't know what you expected, but it turns out that we have a lot of students and interns, which makes me kind of happy because that's amazing. You start thinking about your international employment even before you are in the job market, which is fantastic. And about a third of our visitors who have voted work in a local company in their own country, which is probably supposed to be the most popular answer. That's right. Okay, we'll move on. And I'd like to ask you the second question. Have you ever thought of working abroad? And I know that sounds like a weird question because you are in a workshop devoted to working abroad, but I want to be sure what exact stage you are at. Have you already had this experience before? Maybe you haven't taken any action yet, or maybe you were just inspired by the workshop description because it was written so nicely that you just decided to join, but you never had any expectations to work abroad before. So let me know what's the current situation. Okay? Let me give you just a couple of seconds to process this. And I see we have 24 people voting out of 35 in the Zoom. So yeah, just a quick reminder for those who have come a little later. This is the voting link. Thank you, Julia, for repeating that. That's pretty helpful. And I also can share again the voting link over here, just for those who would like to scan the QR code again. All right. Now I think we're all good and we want to know what the result is. I only have one person who has never thought of working abroad, but they were inspired by the workshop. Anna, Alina, congrats. We have one person who has never thought of that before, but was kind of inspired, which is, yeah, good to know. And we have about a third of people who have had this experience already, which is amazing. And the rest are either trying something right now or haven't taken any action yet, which is also good to know, good to understand. A couple of more questions for me to get to know you better. Again, kind reminder, this is an anonymous poll. Why do you want to work abroad, guys? Just an open question. I want to hear from you. Any quick answer, just a couple of words. Don't write a big Hemingway style essay, okay? We don't need that long stories. We don't need Alexander Dumas stories here. So just a very quick answer, short comment would be good to hear. Oh my God, we're bringing more and more people on board. Okay. Okay, super. Thank you, Artemi. That's helpful to know. Just to repeat again, for those who have just joined, we have a group poll happening and the voting is in the following link. All right, so I can see that there are a lot of interesting answers and very few coincidences, which is amazing. Everybody has their own reasons. Growth opportunities, taxes, it's exotic, it gives new experiences, it gives me exploration. It is, let me put it this way, maybe. Industry of choice is almost entirely foreign. I feel your pain here, yeah. More work-life balance, family situation, wider experience and networking, for more opportunities, for growth opportunities, to meet new cultures, to get wider experiences, to explore the world. Yeah, all of this is very, 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 very understandable. And I think the word experience and the word new become the top words in our poll. Yeah, okay. I welcome everybody to join because it's so much more fun when you're engaged. Don't hesitate to click the link and join. We are only 18 people for some reason. Almost half do not participate. I don't know why. That's painful. But anyway, we continue. And let's see the last question I have for you. I want you to please rate the challenges of finding a job abroad for you personally from on the scale of 1 to 5. I just suggest that you think how difficult it is for you to start searching for a job abroad. Maybe a foreign languages is a challenge. Maybe lack of convertible experience is a challenge. The experience that you have in the local market is not so much understood in the foreign market. Maybe your visa requirements are challenging because if you want to go for job interviews in person, you need to get a visa and it's so hard and you can't really live in a foreign country for a long time because you have the so-called weak passport, things like that. Okay, I give you a chance to think about that. On a scale of 1 to 5, I welcome you to consider that. And I want to thank again everyone who is switching their cameras on. It's really helpful for me to see the real life people. Okay. Right. Looks like you guys are not very scared of all those challenges. Your answers are like, everything's all right. It's not a big deal. All right. But the most popular answer, believe it or not, is actually you don't know where to start. Which is still not the top result, but anyway, you're quite confident about your language skills. Kudos, good job. I'm happy to hear that. Then comes lack of convertible experience. And then you're kind of not very much scared of the visa situations or limited working opportunities. But of course, this list of criteria is just a small suggestion of a big list of difficulties that may be on your way. So totally get it. And that's totally fine. Thank you very much. We'll stop the poll here. You can close the link at the moment and we'll proceed with the presentation. But it was important for me to understand where you come from, in a sense, like what's your standing point right now? What are the challenges that you are currently facing? Okay, let's continue. And since I now know a little bit more about you, it could be a good idea to also introduce myself. As Anna has said, I'm doing intercultural communications, which is my biggest passion and my biggest interest in life. I see how people from different cultural backgrounds communicate, and I think it's fascinating how different sometimes we all can be. So I've been tutoring and consulting different companies and private individuals who want to work internationally and play in the global market for about 11 years. And 8 out of 11, I've been leading my own little company, which does a boutique consultancy for those players who want to work globally. So out of the key interesting facts, I think, is my education back in London, my work experience in different countries across the world, from the United States, in California and Silicon Valley, to my experiences in South Korea, where I studied, and Australia and South Africa, where we traveled for my husband's work. I've visited 63 countries, which gives me quite a good range of perspective, I should say. And I've helped about 50 clients with their international employment at different stages, including my husband, who has found a job in Denmark here, which is a pretty tough country, I should say, in terms of labor market and migrant legislation. So I'm very proud. I also supported him on this way. We're currently based in Copenhagen. And when it comes to supporting those people who want to relocate or find a job abroad, I usually help them with prepping for international interviews or their letters and applications. But what's most importantly, I think, is just a wide scope of experiences that I've had, understanding what international employers value and what international applicants are missing sometimes. So that's where my background comes from. And I just want to do several disclaimers for you, for those who watch us online right now, who participate, and those who do that on YouTube later. Hello to the people in the future. The first disclaimer is that this is a really very, very basic webinar. So I'm not going to give you like rocket science into writing motivation letters in details. So this is more like a 101 course, if you know what I mean, like the very basic foundation for your inspiration, for your general understanding. And if you want to find more in-depth material, you can go to my YouTube or to my LinkedIn. There are plenty of materials, starting from how you work in the international team to how you do international leadership, how you research different markets. It's all there. So if you're looking for something deeper, perhaps this is not the right webinar to begin with. But I'm sure those people who are still in doubt or are concerned about how you start, this is the right place for you. Another thing is, this workshop is going to be more applicable for corporate workers rather than freelancers or self-employed. I'm sure you're going to find something interesting if you're self-employed or an individual entrepreneur, but it's mostly targeting people who are looking for the so-called corporate jobs or startup jobs or any jobs that are formally solidified. So not for someone who is searching for new clients in a foreign market, though some of the tips can be helpful as well. Also, I would really like to just skip the motivational part about the fact that, ooh, global jobs are there, they are available, you just need to want that. So I'm not Tony Robbins for you here today. What I actually want to do is I want to guide people who already have this thing in mind. And as I understood from the poll today, you do guys have this in mind already. So I want to go a little bit more practical into this, which is why specifically in this presentation, I've prepped several tips, which are the special slides organized as tips to help you later if you review the presentation to understand where the practical recommendations stand. Last but not least, today we're doing this event for Women in Tech Uzbekistan, but it doesn't mean that if you come from a different country, it's not going to be applicable. I'm going to be using Uzbekistan examples quite a lot, but it is just a starting point. So you shouldn't think that I'm going to now go extremely deeply into some Uzbekistan specifics, not at all. It's just a good illustration for you guys to move on from this starting point, okay? And just to tell you one more disclaimer, there will be no magic pills of how to prepare for any job in any culture, which may be expected. Like there is this global culture, which is universal everywhere. That's not true, but hopefully I'll be able to give you some life hack and suggestions about different stages of your work search. All right. And I think that at this point of time, I want to introduce what are the main blocks of agenda for us today. I want to discuss what doubts usually stand on our way when we prepare the first steps for our global work search. I want to speak about the priorities that every person should suggest in order to be efficient in their search, what kind of things you should prioritize on your search. I'm going to speak about the so-called invisible job opportunities. So the things that are there for you, you can grab them, but sometimes you simply don't see them really much. I'm going to give you a number of reliable job sources, as well as a case of a step-by-step search for a job. Some intercultural communication tips that I really suggest that you pay careful attention to, because I'm going to give you one, which I hope will be quite helpful. And I'm going to give you some further resources to later explore on your own in your individual search. All right, I think that's it for now for the introduction. This was the main point. How do you feel, guys? Are you ready? Good to go? Give me like a little emoji or a reaction, a thumbs up. Yeah? All right, super. Good. Good to see. All right, now I also know that those people who have their cameras off are with me. Super, super. Good to know. Fantastic. Let's get started. And in order to begin, I suggest that we briefly speak about the doubts that are very often standing on our way. And I've collected 3 types of doubts that I usually notice among my clients or even the colleagues that I meet at international exhibitions, no matter where they come from. That'd be a colleague from Canada, or that'd be a colleague from Pakistan, that'd be a colleague from Kuwait or from Peru, really doesn't matter. Very often, if you're not a native speaker, your first doubt is maybe your English is not good enough. And in your case, you're saying you feel more confident about that. But in the other cases, people say, oh, I only know the business situation in my local market, or I only have experience with the local providers, producers, local players. How do I make it convertible? Or another good question that comes in mind is, why would people somewhere in Germany hire me if they have their own German applicants? What's the point for them to spend efforts, resources, and for me to go through all this stress, starting from visa to cultural shock, if I want to get, fully, clearly integrated into that work culture? So what I have to say to you here is a couple of, thinking points. Let's begin with me asking you to think about some doubts that come to your mind when you are thinking about the job opportunities abroad. Can you please just write down in the chat the points that come to your mind? That would be fantastic. Or maybe write to yourself. So just take a little moment and think of the problems and doubts that you believe are the confusions, the obstacles that are on your way before you decide to go and search for a job, or maybe the ones that you already face. Just as in the example as I had here. Say some of them may be like, why should they hire me? Or I only know the local business. So I kindly ask you to think about those kind of challenges and think about the one that are currently in your mind. Think about them, maybe write them down to yourself or write them down in the chat. Take a little moment and think about the things that are in your mind right now. Okay, we're starting to get our first answers. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. There is a lot of bureaucracy to hire foreigner. Sometimes their competition is very high. Applied to several positions and didn't hear from any. How different is the workplace culture from my home country? Yeah, the work culture will be very different. How do you manage that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's take 30 more seconds for you to think about the challenges that you have in your mind, the doubts that you have in your mind. And I just want to make a reminder that the more actively you participate in the workshop, the more value you have, the more thoughts you can come up with. Okay. Does anyone want to be brave enough to switch on the mic and share a couple of thoughts that they didn't write about, but maybe have some in mind? Anybody wants to switch on the microphone? Maybe if you don't have the camera on, that's okay. Just want to hear some voice. Somebody save, please. That would be good to hear from you. Any of the points that were not mentioned in the chat, maybe, or you want to clarify them. Okay. Nobody wants to. Yes, please go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am a bit afraid that I'm not competent enough to get accepted to any kind of jobs in abroad.
Yeah.
For instance. So that was one of my fear, and the second was the financial problem to move there and to settle down.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mean you want to spend a lot of, you need to spend a lot of money to move abroad, right?
Yeah, as a girl, I cannot have, and I may not have enough financial, let's say, support or financial savings so that I can't really move and then settle down.
Okay. I understand the concern, Jasmina. Just want to say that I'm not sure it's a gender question of whether it's a boy or a girl. I'm sure there are boys in the same position who might be lacking financial resources to move, but to just give you a little support and maybe inspiration to think about, a quick recap is that a lot of companies actually pay for the relocation of their professionals. So yeah, just a quick reminder about that. Not all of them do, but some of them do. And you can also consider that as a criteria for your search, right? Because many global companies do that. Okay, good that you that you mentioned that. Thank you very much for helping me and speaking out loud. And I just want to share with you how you can turn your doubts into your strengths. Some like little mental exercise that I suggest that we all do together with you. So if your English is not good enough, then possibly that's the case. But I welcome you to think that you actually speak as a native other languages that may be of value to an international company that's developing your local market. Or sometimes you are a great transition point For example, if you're based in Uzbekistan, many people might be happy to hire you in order to work in the whole region of Central Asia, because maybe you not only speak Uzbek language, but maybe you also speak Russian. That could also be the case, which helps you cover a bigger area. So there's one of the reasons why people might be interested in hiring you, because you actually speak a different language. That is an asset. Another example that I gave you is, oh, I only know business in my local market and my local expertise is not enough for a global employer. Understandable doubt. But at the same time, many global companies look for local expertise. And it's not only marketing agencies or digital agencies. Those can also be logistics, transportation, retail, FMCG, etc., etc. Again, many companies are opening up branches in your local market, and they may need a person who knows the local market in their headquarters, no matter where they are based, in the Netherlands or in Johannesburg. Sometimes people think, yeah, why hiring me if there are local applicants and there's no need for a bureaucratic procedure. However, a lot of countries have shortage of labor force. Maybe you have been hearing some of the news about the European Parliament elections that have just finished last weekend. And a big agenda for many of the European countries have been that the local labor force is simply not enough. And there is still a shortage of qualified professionals working in many industries. Plus, a lot of companies are actually looking for diversity in their teams, because they understand that if they are a Chinese company only working with the Chinese, and if they want to conquer the global market, that's not how it works. They need some foreigners to bring them fresh ideas, fresh understandings, local languages, and local market expertise as well. So I just want you to start thinking of how your limitations can turn into your own advantages. And I just want to give you a quick example that maybe you think, all right, maybe, yeah, there are some 10, 100, 1,000 fantastic, skillful people who were lucky, but look at this. Comes from Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development and World Bank statistics on the Statista website. We're sharing the source with you here. Later, you can check that yourself. Look at the educated migrants. Let's call them this way. This is the term that the World Bank is using itself. It's not my coinage, so please let's follow the statistical terms here. How many educated people moved from these respective countries to other countries to work abroad? So we have 3.1 Indian individuals, 2.2 million Chinese people, 1.8 million Filipino people, 1.75 British people, 1.47 German people, etc., etc. So this is just examples for you. And to the right, you have the population stats. I think it's a little bit outdated. Maybe it comes from 2022 because right now the population of both India and China is higher. But anyway, regardless, I just want to say that the numbers give you a quick idea of how many million people move from their countries to do educated jobs abroad, right? So these are not labor migrants, but the so-called educated migrants. All right. I hope you find the statistics inspiring, and I just want to give you one tip. Try to turn your doubts into your advantages and see where your limitations as you see them can be of use for you personally. Yeah. So I would like you to move on with the other ideas that I have in mind for today's presentation, but please keep this tip, and maybe for the list of the things that you've written down as your limitations, do this little mental exercise and turn this limitation into an opportunity. Okay. All right. Speaking of the priorities, I think this is one of the most important sections of my today's presentation for you, because a lot of people get very confused about starting when they search for a job, because there are millions and millions of opportunities in hundreds of countries. Yeah, we have 194 officially recognized countries across the world. Where do I start from? There's so many amazing places to work and live in. So you know, some people do really have different reasons to go for different countries to work abroad. And we've already talked about them. New experiences, personal life reasons. Yeah, some people want to take a job abroad to make sure that they learn a new language to the very top level, because they will be able to, you know, support their language development when they work abroad. Some find a better financial reward, especially if your local currency is not very stable. Yeah. Somebody's just looking for the opportunity to travel. Somebody wants better living standards because another country offers better social benefits. It can be a question of status and prestige as well, because, you know, I work abroad. This can be, you know, a sort of an advantage for me, for my personal life, etc. It also can be a question of professional need. So sometimes, as you mentioned in the poll, it's true, your profession can be very foreign based. Sometimes it's simply impossible to find the job of your interest in your own country because the industry is not very well developed, or there can be hundreds of other reasons. But it is, for me, a very important question of how you set the criteria and how do you set the priorities for your search. And I hear usually people being divided into two categories: those who prioritize the country and those who prioritize the position. So what do I mean under this? Let's go detail step by step. Those people who prioritize a country or sometimes a city. Yeah, I know that some people do want to work in Cape Town, not just somewhere in South Africa. They really know where they want to move because they really specifically research this country or have some specific interest in this because of their personal life or living standards or something like that. Because maybe you want to work remotely. So you want to go to Indonesia and live in Bali, but you want to specifically work for an American company because the tax system between Indonesia and the USA is very favorable. Yeah, very good. Okay, that's understandable. The position or industry sometimes doesn't matter for them that much. Oh, I can do this and I can do that. I can research different positions. It doesn't really matter much for me as long as I find a job specifically in this country or in this city. Another group of people prioritizes positions. You know what position you want to work for, and you know what conditions you're ready to take. So, for example, in case of Jasmina, you were speaking about the relocation, right? Yeah, you might want to say, yeah, I want to be a technological project manager. And one of my criteria is I want to make sure my company pays for my relocation because it's going to be expensive. So this is my top priority condition. All right, fair enough. Good. I'm sure there are many companies that are ready to suggest that, sometimes even do more than that. For example, a lot of European companies are ready to cover first 2 months of your apartment rent during your transition period, which is, yeah, very favorable, very nice of them. That's true. And the country or the city or the region doesn't matter that much, which is fair. And what I want to say here as a conclusion to identify those two types of criteria is that it's really good to have at least one, because sometimes people are like, I want to go anywhere and do any sort of job. And I can understand the frustration of your brain with millions of opportunities in front of you. Of course, you're stuck. Of course, you have a paralysis. Of course, you have a procrastination because you don't know where to start. Find something, I don't know what, find it, I don't know where. So yeah, of course, it's challenging. So I suggest that you find specifically at least one criteria, but it's a great opportunity if you have two of them. So if you limit the number of countries where you want to be based or cities, and if you limit the number of positions that you're searching for, this is a perfect match. So if you have two criteria matched together, you know where you're searching and you know what position you're looking for, the chances are going so much higher. Okay. Just want to double check how you're feeling there. So many people are just black squares for me. So I just want to know how you guys doing. Are you with me, following? Are you already far away searching for the new job in a specific website? Yeah, just wanted to check if you're doing all right, if everything's good. Yeah, okay, super, good to see that. Yay, good. All right, we're moving on then. I'm glad we are progressing at a good pace. Yeah, the question that I wanted to ask here is, Well, if I know what I'm looking for, imagine that I have my criteria set in place. And if I'm a good professional, if I already went through my therapy with my therapist or with my coach who convinced me that I'm good enough for the position that I'm doing, and I have no imposter syndrome, let's take it easy. What can be different in my application process from Uzbekistan to the USA or from France to the Netherlands? Well, the simple question, as I mentioned before, is literally anything can be different, from the formats of your CV to how you're being recommended, from how many rounds of interviews you go through to what kind of matches the people are expecting, what kind of fits they are looking for, cultural fit, professional fit, etc., etc. So the processes can be very confusing and sometimes really scaring, I should say, but shouldn't be, because you're in the right place to learn a little bit more about how to overcome those differences. I just want to give you a quick example here. So for example, in Japan, it might not be even possible to apply for a position if you are not matching a certain age expectation. So if you want to apply for a managerial position and you're not yet 55, you're probably not going to be considered. Nobody's going to say that directly out loud, but there is an informal expectation for that. Yeah. All right. In some Arab countries, which are boosting for foreign jobs, by the way, people, quick reminder, if you are looking for the opportunities in some technological sectors, it's a great place to look through. MENA region, Arab countries, Gulf area cooperation countries, amazing opportunity for expat workers. But in some positions, there is an informal preference for men. Yes, and again, nobody's going to say that, only looking for males. No, of course not. But there will be a certain prioritization for men, and it doesn't mean we should follow that. No, I mean, stand up for your rights, and you can definitely apply and try, and I'm not saying you should stop, but it's a good idea to consider that, to just understand that it may take much longer time and much more effort. Again, I'm not saying it's not worth trying, and I'm not discouraging you from doing that, but just keeping that in mind, having this context is already very helpful. And then sometimes you also can end up in a funny situation when the position that you call a coder or a programmer may be simply called a developer in a different market. And you might be stuck searching for a position that just has a different name in a different market. And you may think, oh, I'm just probably simply not qualified enough, or this market doesn't have enough of position, but not really. It's just a different naming. And that's totally all right. Things can really differ in anything. Well, moving on, just a few more examples. Some countries, they're okay to receive foreigners, but they prefer local education. For example, the markets of Scandinavia, where I am based right now, a lot of people search for a job here, and they understand it's so much easier to come here for a short-term course, maybe half a year course or 1 year course, but get a degree from a local educational institution, and then their chances to get a job increase exponentially, simply because the local market is organized this way. Another example is in India, again, informally. It's really hard to find a job without a local partner, without a local introduction, without a local reference. Yeah. So you might be a fantastic professional, matching very well, but somebody's cousin's cousin has already been recommended. And I'm not saying it's a country of corruption or something. It's just a different type of work and employment culture that works in this country, right? And finally, work visa requirements for your country can be very challenging and sometimes more challenging than you think. So I suggest, in order to not be extremely disappointed after many months of search, first also consider this kind of criteria. So just want to give you a quick example of how it actually looks when you're working for a job abroad, because nobody can tell you all of these little details in advance, even the best consultant in this specific country for this specific conditions. Basically, what's happening is when you're starting with an application, you're getting feedback. And as some of our participants in the chat have mentioned, yeah, what was that? I wrote 5 to 6 positions, applied for 5 to 6 positions and never got any feedback. Yes, that's very understandable. Sometimes the feedback that you're receiving is no feedback, right? That's very possible. Then you're drafting another application and then you're getting another feedback. Maybe you changed something and this time you were selected, you were screened for another round of an interview. Okay, that sounds clear, good, but still you're not getting an offer. Then you're making another application and this spiral goes round and round and round and round, and then you're luckily getting an offer. But just for your clarification, in some complex markets, in some high standing positions, I had a client who has successfully found a job after half a year of trials, but he has sent 600 applications. And it's not that he was not good. He was actually fantastic with a lot of experience in the international company, traveled across the world, worked for a big consultancy. But the fact is that the market is pretty complex. And in order to adjust to little details, how to match the expectations of this specific country and this specific position, you need to go through a lot of loops. Yeah. And I just encourage you not to give up and try to understand that because those experiences matter, I really welcome you to explore the local landscape of jobs, offers, conferences, and media before you start applying. Okay? So this is just a very good first step for you to give it a try before giving up and saying, oh, I'm just not good enough for this market. Try to explore what the informal expectations are and what the typical recommendations for the market might be. And of course, another great tip here is to talk to people in these industries and these positions and ask for a virtual coffee. And now I'd like everyone to please help me in this little interaction. And I want you guys to send me any emoji, maybe a coffee emoji if you like. If you have ever asked somebody, maybe in person or on LinkedIn or by email or by calling somebody to talk to you about a new position or some job opportunities or exploration of some market, did you ever welcome anybody for a virtual coffee or a real coffee, asking them to explain to you a little bit more about how this or that job, company, or market works? So I'm seeing many cups of coffee. Yay! We are having a coffee party here, or a tea party. Depends on what culture you belong to. Some cultures are coffee cultures, some cultures are more tea cultures. Okay, but not so many. Tea, yay! Okay. All right, good. But just please be mindful that this is actually a fantastic opportunity for you to really learn the life hacks from a specific industry or a specific country, especially if a person that you talk to speaks your language or comes from your cultural area. And I just want to give you an example that I've recently received a message from a girl that I met at my theatrical class. I go to a theatrical studio where I study. It's my hobby. And we just met very like briefly, got to know each other during one class. And then she came back to me saying, hey, I want to start a job in intercultural communication. I saw this position and I saw this person that you're in friends with. Can I ask you a couple of questions? And as you can see, I was very helpful, but not very brief. I mean, not very quick in my response, because I understand that the planning here in Scandinavia is very long-term planning. We usually plan like a month ahead or forward. But that's okay. Sometimes if you're not in a rush, that's also fine for you. So ask for a virtual coffee or a real coffee. A virtual coffee is very possible. It's a great opportunity for you. And Women in Tech does a lot of virtual coffees. I know that they're great for that. So I welcome you to try this practice. Now, I will definitely like your interaction here, because I want to speak about your experiences and use your imagination. So I want to speak about the invisible job opportunities that surround us, because in fact, many of us believe that these are the places where we search for international jobs, right? The aggregators, the web pages that have postings for new vacancies, etc., etc. However, it is very true that a lot of job opportunities are around us, but we simply don't notice them, or we don't have the right spectacles or the right lenses to put on and start looking at the world from a different perspective. So sometimes there are online conferences or professional events with international participation that be, again, online or sometimes offline, where you can meet fantastic professionals at networking parts, or even when you just chat in the Zoom chat or in the YouTube chat, where a lot of people would be happy to later connect with you on LinkedIn and continue a conversation. Sometimes there are offline events and webinars organized by an international company that works specifically in your market. For example, Uzbekistan has PricewaterhouseCoopers, has BCG, Bain, and many other international companies that do a lot of offline events. And I'm sure no matter what country you come from, there are multiple opportunities like that. Finally, there are educational institutions and even online courses where you can meet a lot of people who can be your peers, but at the same time, they are very much open for new interns or new employees. So there is also a fantastic opportunity to meet new people through those educational courses. Same story for me. Sometimes I find my amazing clients through the educational opportunities where I decided to join. And just a quick, beautiful example, there's this lady I met through Women in Tech, actually. We had a virtual coffee together, and it turned out that they were doing workshops for a marketing company that was offering online courses in marketing simply to recruit new employees. So it was not very clearly stated in the start, because they were like, oh, we are just teaching everyone. We are really happy to share the knowledge, blah, blah, blah. But in fact, they were recruiting people. And I'm sure if you are friends with some HRs or talent management professionals, they'll tell you about a lot of connection between educational courses and educational professional events and the actual employment. I can see some of the comments are coming in the chat. Yes, thank you for helping me to answer them on the go. All right, what I want you to do now and why I need your involvement. I want you to go and discuss this question in the mini groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 minutes to, have a little energizer. We are going to be divided into mini rooms. So breakout rooms. I would suggest that we have 10 rooms where you will be able to see 2 or 3 other people. Yeah, maybe let's say 11 rooms. That would be better, probably. Yeah, 3 people in the room. Hopefully, if somebody's missing and is not connected and just forgot about this Zoom, there will still be at least one partner. Please connect with your partners in the mini room, in the breakout room, and discuss what other invisible job opportunities there are that you maybe didn't notice before, didn't think about before, or maybe something that worked for your local job opportunities, but you didn't think that this can actually be transferable into global work opportunities, right? So I want you to think about the other job opportunities that you do not notice straight away, but maybe they can help you find a global job, right? So I'll give you 5 minutes to discuss. If you do not find a partner in your mini room, come back to the main room and I will try to assign you into a more friendly environment, okay? So just want to hear a thumbs up from you. Are you good to go? Ready to discuss that with the other colleagues? Are we fine? Yeah, I can see some thumbs up, but not many. Are you guys okay? Yeah. All right, super. I'm glad to hear that and to see that. All right, welcome. Have a 5-minute breaker with your partners to discuss what other invisible opportunities you can brainstorm together. When we're speaking about the resources that you probably didn't notice, those are the things that I hope were very inspiring for you. I'm glad that you have received so many ideas, from Tinder to talking to the people right in person, coming to their offices, or writing directly to their companies that have not yet posted a position. But I welcome you to have a look at the other ideas that maybe were not mentioned. There are multiple organizations across the world that organizations that create spaces for the local audience to communicate with the expats, such as Internations or Meetup, that help you connect with the foreign professionals who work in your area. Another good idea could be to work or to communicate or to interact or to somehow collaborate with the local cultural centers, diplomatic missions, including embassies, trade missions, etc. They very often offer joint projects, and through them you can also learn more about the job opportunities in these specific countries. Also, international companies are a great source of an opportunity to get a foreign job, simply because if you join a big company, later you'll have an opportunity to get a transition abroad. We had several of our Ukrainian friends who transitioned to Canada, being a part of a big telecom company, or a number of our friends from BCG went to work from Kazakhstan to the USA, simply because there was this opportunity within the global company to make these transitions. Right, and now I would like to say a few words about the reliable position aggregators, and this comment is on the word reliable. I think the first aggregator that comes to your mind would probably be LinkedIn. And if you can see, it has a lot of opportunities for you, from searching engines that you can use title, skill, or company, city, state, or even a zip code. It's a good opportunity. Then finally, you can also use a lot of LinkedIn resources to do the preparation for the interview or get the job seeking guidance. There are multiple opportunities that are there for you, including, by the way, artificial intelligence based articles on specific industries that can also be sometimes inspiring because they're commented by people and there are lots of very fresh inputs. But anyway, of course, LinkedIn is not the only source. We have such a huge number of resources. I'm not going to stop over them all. Just want to say that it's far not the end. However, I welcome you indeed to look at the list of resources such as Indeed, Glassdoor, and Great Place to Work, because instead of just trusting any opportunity that's in front of you, go ahead and check the employer's brand. Go ahead and check if that's the company that's really worth its attention. Unless you have the patience to submit 600 applications like my client, you might want to make sure before you tailor your CV, before you send out all these motivation letters and all of the other documents, is it really worth it? Is this employer really worth it? I just recently got to know this company. I wanted to use this as an example that, by the way, LinkedIn also provides you several hints on if the company is dynamically developing or if it's a dying entity, let's put it this way. For instance, here we can see the number of followers, the number of employees, and actually how long ago the company has published. Look, this is a really pretty vibrantly developing company, so why not giving it a try? Right. And of course, I mentioned before that there are some specialized agencies that offer some local people from a specific country or in general, the assistance in transitioning to another country. I do not have anything against these agencies or specific consultants or agents who offer these kind of services. I believe it's a very good opportunity for some people. I personally don't know these two websites because, they didn't pay me to be on my presentation. Maybe they should have, but anyway, so those are just random choices that I've made. Please don't see them as my recommendations. I just wanted to say that these exact type of agencies can be helpful, but be careful reading the small font because very often these agencies take 1 or 2 first salaries, limit your capacity to cancel the employment with somebody, to reject the proposal, to reject the offer, or to submit a redundancy paper. Sometimes they limit the capacity to switch to a different role. So they're really posing certain limitations on you. So really need to be very careful if you are trying to start your career abroad with these kind of agencies. Make sure that the conditions are suitable for you and you will not be shocked and surprised in the future. And of course, I'll be happy to learn about the websites that you personally know so that I can later aggregate them and see if maybe we can put together a whole good list of the job sources that you guys have been using or you would recommend, together with the list that I recommend. So I'll put all of this together into a post, put it on my LinkedIn, and I'm sure you're going to be enjoying this good collection of some reliable job sources. Don't forget that there are sometimes as well some resources that are available for the alumni of a specific company. For example, you were an alumni of a Coca-Cola and you would like to find a job abroad so that other former Coca-Cola employees may be posting the positions on your local alumni network. That's also very doable. Or the people of your diaspora, people who come from your country, sometimes help the people from the same country find a job opportunity in the new country. So for instance, I know a lot of Indian people who moved to the USA and they help other people from India to relocate and find a job in their companies, which is also a fantastic resource. So I'll put a lot of those resources together into this post that I'll put on LinkedIn very shortly. So just for you to get this clear understanding of how I suggest that you do this step-by-step search, I'll be very superficial. I've just created this profile of a girl called Isel. This was Midjourney's picture, not mine. So it's not a specific girl that I know, just a random AI generalized picture. The first thing I suggest that we do is to definitely make market research and prioritization as per the first part of my presentation. Do we want more the country? Do we want more a position? Or do we know exactly what we're looking for? How do we call this position? What are the circumstances in the specific markets? Even if you just type in the position into LinkedIn, just believe me, apart from job opportunities, you'll find a lot of suggestions such as people who have this position right now. Maybe there are some acquaintances of yours. Maybe you already know somebody you can talk to. Maybe you can read the descriptions on their pages, what exactly they're doing on these roles. I think this is extremely helpful. Lots of articles can be found on the first page, even on Google. So just make this research specifically targeting the country, maybe, if that's something you're interested in. Of course, update your CV. I'm not going to go into details here. I know there are tons of consultants and tons of guides and explanations on YouTube and everywhere how to improve your CV. But what I suggest that you do is you definitely keep it as a template. So make sure that there is a small opportunity for you always to shuffle the blocks, to highlight the important points, maybe create a bigger CV that you always fine-tune specifically for the new position. Of course, work on your motivation and cover letters. Those are the things that are very obvious, but a lot of people then take them too lightheartedly. A lot of people simply ignore putting the keywords from the position that they're applying to into their CV, into their cover and motivation letters. I'm not going to stop here. I'm just saying that these are the natural steps that I would recommend the person to take. Of course, update a profile from a very, unclear, vague, not very memorable into a more professional, into a better developed profile. For instance, change a picture into a more professional one. Make sure you are easily findable, you're open for job. And again, there are tons of videos, resources, recommendations, how you can improve the profile, even at least make it a little bit polished. And of course, prep outreach messages. Make sure that you have messages for different circumstances. For example, for reaching out to a new recruiter, to thank a recruiter for adding you to their network, reaching out to a person you have talked to previously in order to ask if there are any job opportunities. And if you have those templates at hand, it's going to be so much easier for you to interact with tons of messages later if you're seriously considering applying for a foreign job. So yeah, be prepped to work with a lot of files to be organized just like Lego blocks. And a good tip that I've heard from my client who has submitted 600 applications to find a job in a very nice company. This is to assign 10-15 minutes to this task every day, no matter how little feedback you receive. You may have sent 60 applications and 0 feedback, but you need to continue doing the 70th and the 80th application. And while you're doing them, in the next circles, do you remember this feedback loop, right? Application feedback, you will start receiving more and more of them, but it takes time, especially if you are thinking of some European companies, which may take months to process your application, which is very typical. Sometimes you apply and the answer comes back in 3 months, especially if you hit the vacation period, which is sometimes July, sometimes August. So that's totally okay. Just never give up and keep trying, utilizing the feedback you're getting from previous employers, recruiters, or the people you talk to during virtual coffees and maybe the events that you attend. So these are the recommendations and a little practice that I suggest that we do to make sure you get the maximum value of this little workshop. So this is the practice time that I suggest that we take. So I want you to please take a little piece of paper and a pen or open a separate file on your computer. I don't want you to work in the chat right now, so it's like a little bit more private activity. I want you to please think of a number of education or professional achievements that you're really proud of, preferably with some brands or numbers to make it more specific. So let me give you an example. Maybe you're proud of being a graduate of a specific university, which is great, amazing. It's a good achievement to be a graduate of a prominent university. Maybe you have some great work experience, like you managed digital transformation for a chain of supermarkets and you've been doing that for 2 years. That's a big process and you're proud of this accomplishment. Maybe you have introduced new international sellers for a marketplace in your local country, in your local market. And I welcome you to think of such achievements, no matter how big or small. Maybe you're a student right now, but you still have your student achievements. That's good. Let's focus on them. And let's try to write them down, 3 of them, somewhere in a piece of paper or in your separate file. You don't need to share them with me right now. Just take your time, a couple of minutes, and write them somewhere where only you can see them. All right. Suggest that we complete. And let's finish and move on to the interesting part, as I hope. All right. So what I see is if we make a little twist, we can probably help our international employers and recruiters see us from a little different perspective. Instead of saying you're a graduate of Samarkand National University, which is very familiar to you because you are from this specific country, you can say that you were in top 1% of your master's class in one of the best universities in the whole of Central Asia. Or in any other way, how you can explain what your university is. Is it like a super tiny little small university that nobody has ever heard of? Or is it like a top professional university in your country, in your area? How difficult it was to study there? Did you get a full scholarship? Were you in the top of your class? Did you get a special maybe prize, or did you graduate with a diploma with honors, which was only for let's say, which was only good for 0.05% of the graduates? I don't know. It's up to you. I think, Eugenia, if you're taking a PhD, it's a very clearly recognized, again, very clearly recognized achievement. But I would be even more curious and I would see how I can make sure that I make this an even nicer achievement. Did I like get a PhD in 3 years and got my work published in an international journal after the defense? Or how do I make sure that people understand my PhD is worth it? Instead of saying that you manage digital transformation for a chain of supermarkets for 2 years, I would like to suggest that you think from a little different perspective and you say, okay, you introduced cash-free self-service for the largest national supermarket chain with 100 plus shops in the country where 80% of the population only uses cash. This twists it very differently. Why? Because for many countries across the world, the biggest supermarket chain will be like 50 shops, simply because it's a small country and there are not too many achievements here in a sense of self-service, or because the digital transformation means something very long or very small. So if you are working in a country with a big scale, with a big number of people, with a big number of population, that's a great opportunity for you to speak differently about your achievements. And last but not least, if you introduced new international sellers to a local marketplace, you can say that you brought more than 200 Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean exporters to one of the largest local marketplaces with 5 million users. Again, 5 million users is almost the size of the country where I live. So right now, I'm just trying to say, your achievement may seem small to you because you come from a big country or a country that has very well-established processes. But look, for the other countries, these are amazing achievements that nobody could ever think of. So take it easy, get a deep breath. And I suggest that right now you try to have a little different look at your achievements that you wrote, and maybe take 2 or 3 minutes, try to change them. Would that be okay? I welcome you to take a look at your achievements and try to rewrite them so that you can explain it better to the international audience. Okay? Look at your files and try to change them, twist a little bit. I would suggest that we move on this because of the time pressure. But please don't hesitate to think more about that and transform your achievements in a better fashion. All right. So I would now like to just give you this last tips. Try to look at your own achievements with foreigners' perspective, people who don't know what your university is, what your capitals are, what kind of size of the population you have, how well developed this or that industry is, people who have no idea about the names of your brands. But it can be very useful for the international market as well, if only you can interpret those details about your background and your achievements. And finally, try to compare the size and conditions of the industries you operate in. It might happen that you're coming from a developing country to a developed country, and it might seem like, our industries are not as well developed as somewhere in a different country. But as it turns out, pretty much every country has their own strong industries. It might be mining for Uzbekistan. It might be telecom for Kazakhstan. Might be anything. I'm just suggesting some ideas for you to think about, okay? Now, I want to make some first conclusions for you to think of, to take away from today. The first idea and the first thought I really want you to take away from this is that all of us, we have some quite unique expertise and experience to share with the global community. And of course, it may take much more time and effort to find a position abroad compared to finding a position in the local market, especially in some complicated niche areas. But don't give up after the first circles of the spiral that I showed you. The spiral may take hundreds of circles, but if you're really determined and if you listen to the feedback and the signals of the market, you'll be there. Also, there are tons of aggregators and resources and agencies that will offer you fantastic positions. Some of them I already showed to you. Some of them will be there on my LinkedIn, on my YouTube that I'll share later. But your task is to review the market and talk to people who understand what they're really looking for, to look for references maybe, have those virtual coffees with the people who know the market better. And believe me, most of people are happy to help, especially in the communities like Women in Tech. And finally, this last third point that I want you to take away is I really hope that you can adapt your materials to the local expectations, because this is something you will face multiple times, especially searching in different environments in different countries, starting from the names of positions to the explanations of what this specific company or what this specific industry is in your country. you shouldn't think your experience is wrong if people don't understand it straight away. I just welcome a different storytelling that is required for this kind of activity. All right. This is where I wanted to take you. And I just hope that the reflection process is something that can help not only you, but everybody around you. So I welcome you to take 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and write down in the chat maybe one idea, one insight, one understanding that you're taking away from this very superficial, very quick webinar. Maybe there was something that you was like, huh, I never thought about this. Maybe you've heard it from your colleague in the mini group. Maybe you noticed that from the presentation, or maybe you got an insight when you were doing a practical activity. Or maybe you just gave birth to an idea yourself after some of the activities and information. Okay, I'm looking forward to receiving your comments in the chat. New resources for job search, good. Yeah, we have more opportunities than we expected. Definitely, that's true. That's a good insight. Invisible job opportunities, but now you have some understanding. Yeah, it's a good idea to twist your achievements. The idea of CV to easily customize it. I'm happy you got that on board. Oh, that's a very diverse insights, right? Very versatile. Foreign perspective is really interesting. I'm glad to hear that, Alisher. More about this foreign perspective can be seen in different resources that I'll be happy to share with you later on my LinkedIn and other resources as well. All right. Maybe anybody else wants to share the last ideas before we call it a day. All right. If you're still typing, take your time. I will read it after all. But right now, what I suggest that we do is I want you to get more inspiring content from me on LinkedIn. If you haven't scanned the QR code, that's a great chance to do that. Also, Artemi, I would be glad if you can copy paste the link to my LinkedIn into the chat so that you can, guys, collect the resources that I will prep in my post in the nearest future. It's going to be there for you. And finally, yeah, I'm leaving my contacts for your consideration. If you would like to hear from me more from the different resources from my social networks, or contact me personally, that would be also fantastic. I'm super happy for you to ask me questions further on. If I can be of any help, let me know. I suggest that you process this information, take your time to digest it, because yeah, this is really sometimes overwhelming to have all of these inspiring resources and ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, take your time and don't hesitate to approach me later when you process all of that. At this point, I would like to call it a day. Thank you very much for staying with me. And I look forward to seeing you in the future. Alina, would you like to say a few words maybe?
Yes, of course. Thanks a lot, Kristina, for sharing your knowledge with us. We've gained a lot of great insights today, and I suggest all of the participants follow Kristina and Women in Tech Uzbekistan in social networks for further networking. Thanks a lot for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Yeah, super. All right, then see you later at some point. Thank you, Artemi, for helping me today. And thanks, Women in Tech, for inviting. Okay, take care.
Thanks a lot. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers.